afternoon, each and everyone. Good afternoon, each and everyone. My name is Elias Sinkala, aka Professor Elias. Welcome back to psychology. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and also share, and also like for the purpose of encouragement. Yes, today we'll talk about stress. And before going further, first of all, you have to know what is the stress is. And before going further, I'll start with the Elias and folkman applause that was being developed. These people developed this the transaction model of stress instead of start with the instead of starting with the Hans Suhoi. Now, before you go any further, first of all, you have to know what is a stress. A stress is being described or is being defined as a response, or in simple term, interpretation, or it's being defined as a response, interpretation, and also reaction. Now, before I go any further, these people, Richard Elias and also Susan Folkman, have to come in with different applauses, primary applause, secondary applause, and also re-applause. Now, in this case, there's different ways of which you can explain their models, which is transaction model of stress. Now, according to Richard Elias and also Susan Folkman, they had to contribute or to explain how people they become affected when there is an interpretation which leads to stress. Now, for instance, there is a certain event that has happened. For instance, we talk of someone has been tested HIV positive. What's going to happen here is this. That is an event. Of which this is an event that we're talking about. This is an event, right? So what's going to happen? That event is going to involve interpretation now. Now that event can be interpreted either negative or positive. Right? Either negative or positive. For instance, that event is being interpreted positive. In a positive way, that's when, for instance, you say, okay, this is HIV positive, that's good, okay, it do happen. These kind of things, just the issue of resolving us do happen. Then what's going to happen now? Then if interpreting, you see it, you just accept it. It will lead into the method of what you call coping. Now, what is this coping? What is this coping? Know that the positive interpretation is taking place, the event and also interpretation of event, and also positive and negative that are taking place in the primary approach. Now, coming in the secondary approach, of which now after I've accepted it, now I've started thinking of what you think of the method of coping. The coping is some of the measures that we put in place to protect the mushrooming of that event. Now, what's going to happen here is this. In this case, you're going now, since you have accepted it, you say, okay, these things do happen. Yes, I've accepted it. And in this case, for instance, this happened, for instance, and it's very much difficult to accept, to put it in the positive way when it happened, for instance, in the area exposure. It might be whether someone was being raped, someone was being raped, those kind of cases. Now, or someone has been defiled. Now, in the positive and in the secondary approach, now I've interpreted the word coping. Now you reach the state of coping. That is the secondary. In the coping method, you put some of the measures, such as what are those measures, such as, for instance, if you have accepted that incident, you put some of measures such as what adaptive view of coping. That adaptive view of coping, and I've got, for instance, different kind of coping. Let me try to list them. I've got adaptive, I've got engaged, task engaged, I've got engaged, disengaged, I've got also emotion, task focused coping. So all those kind of coping, for instance, we talk about adaptive coping method. Yeah, okay, this case, yes, I'm HIV positive. Then what will be in the next step? The next step that will follow, then that's to that patient now start making sure that try to adapt or try to treat, try to cure, and to try to treat, and also try to make sure that is promoting his health way, or is protecting herself, or is making sure that is treating that HIV, that HIV kind of life that he or she is living in the adaptive way or in the health way, doing some exercise, taking ARVs, all those kind of things, eating balanced diet, eating food that are recommended, are getting to the hospital. In the maladaptive way, now this comes in the negative interpretation of the event, and this usually happens, for instance, if the person happens to interpret it in a negative way, of which that involves maladaptive way. For instance, you didn't accept to see that happened due to air exposure, the environment, lip kiss, all those kind of things. Then you start interpreting the event in a negative way. That is maladaptive way. You start drinking, start smoking. You're not accepting that event. After that, then if involved in the coping method, now you go to you apply all those kind of method of coping: adaptive, maladaptive, engaged, disengaged, emotion, task focused coping. Now, those kind of coping that you have applied in this case of come what resilience. Now you are in resilience. You have passed through that difficult, challenging period or challenging time. You are now resilient to that. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. You become resilient. Now, what usually happens is this. When I go in the negative way, that event does happen now in the negative way. This is happening, for instance, a person is not accepting the incidents, a person is worrying, a person is asking herself or himself, what is happening, what am I going to do? He's not accepting it because that event was not happening, it happened, or it didn't happen in his or our will. Now, that's lead to what you call, if you interpret it in the negative way, lead to what you call stress. Now, stress comes in, of which that stress it will lead to develop and also to bring negative consequences in your or our life. Yeah. In this case, this comes in if that person fails to interpret, fails to resolve, fails to find method of coping, fails to accept that event. Now, what will happen? Stress comes in. After stress, depression, then death. Then that is transaction mode of stress, and this usually happen, for instance, like what I said, when the person is failed to adapt or is failed to accept the instincts. Yes. So the event itself and also interpretation of the event, either positive or negative, that was happening in the negative in the primary approach, of which the people they see it what they see it threatening, challenging, and also very much harmful. Of which again, if you go to the method of coping that goes now in the word in the secondary approach, you find method of coping either adaptive, maladaptive. Adaptive, finding the healthware method of coping, maladaptive, things that to contribute to the to the challenge that you are facing again. Yeah, you find things or you put measures that will affect you again. That's maladaptive. Emotion, now I start focusing to the event itself to put more conscious effort. Some applies with task focused, some applies engaged, another same thing. You're putting more conscious effort to become very much active to make sure that everything is increased. And also finally, engaged and disengaged. So this happening in the what? In the primary uploads. Now re-uploads, now resilience. You are now resilient to what? To that diseases. So this is a transaction mode of stress that has been developed by Richard Lazarus and also Susan Folkman.